Act stops illegal activities in the forest area, which is there. The underground water, it has to, quantity as well as quality has to be saved from the industries. Whatever sewage or the effluent is reaching the water body is not permitted from the state board. All of this, the standards is set by the state board, and all the industries should have that minimum standards. Hello my dear students, welcome back to session 2 on the chapter Environmental Policies and Practices. Last class we learnt about the climate and the factors which is affecting the climate. Today we shall learn about the different laws which has been passed to stop or control water pollution, air pollution, and also to save forest as well as wildlife. So the first one is the Water Prevention and Control of Pollution Act, or I can tell Water Act, which was passed in 1974. In this particular act, basically focuses on restoring and saving the water resources as well as to control water pollution. Let's look into the features of Water Act. The first one is this particular act aims on restoring the quality of water, that is how to prevent water pollution, and also to save the water in the aquifers, that is which is there, the underground water. It has to, quantity as well as quality has to be saved for us. That is the first feature. Second feature is it provides for the establishment of central board and the state board. That is, there are two boards. From central also there are certain rules which comes, and the state board also controls the Water Act. Okay, so that's the second feature. The third one, the states are empowered to restrain any person from discharging a pollutant or sewage or effluent into any water body without the consent of the board. That is, the state board is controlling any person or any industry from leaving any pollutant, sewage, effluent directly into the water body. That is, the consent from the state board is required for any effluent to go and reach the water body. Last is the act is not clear. This is one of the disadvantage we can tell. It is not clear about the definition of the pollutant, discharge of pollutant, and toxic pollutant. So in this act they have not mentioned which are the pollutants which should not be put directly into the water bodies. So it is not defining which are toxic pollutants which has banned, or which is the pollutants which should not reach the water bodies. What are the different measures we have to take so that these pollutants do not go and reach the water body. A correct definition is not given. That is one of the drawback of Water Act. Next is the State Pollution Control Board. That is, what exactly is the consents required from the state board, and how a state board controlling the water pollution is what is there here. The first one is the board gives the consent, consent for to establish any industry or any treatment and disposal system or any extension or addition which likely discharge or trade effluent into the stream of well or river or on land. So the state board has to give permission for any industry to be put up, and it has to give permission, or any industry or any person should have the permission from the state board if they want to discharge any effluents or any sewage into any water body. It can be stream, river, well, wherever. But if they want to leave out the any pollutants or anything, they need the consent from the state board. So that's the first thing. Next, the consent is required for any new or altered outlet for the discharge of sewage. Even if the outlet is, having a new alteration, then again they need a consent of the state board. So state board is completely controlling on what are the effluents which is going and reaching the water bodies. Then third one, to begin to make any new discharge of sewage also there is a consent required. If you want to make new discharge, consent is required. You have altered there, the discharge, the way it is discharged, then also the consent is required. Anything, consent from the state board is very, very important. Also, this act empowers the state board to order closure or the stoppage of electricity and water supply for any industries with the polluting unit. Now, what is the meaning of this? For example, if an industry is there which does not have permission for outlet of any sewage or effluent into the water body and they are still doing it, then the state board has all rights to stop all the services like water supply, electric supply to that particular industry. So it is completely under the control of state board. What are the pollutants which is going and reaching the water body? Okay. And which are the industries which are allowed to, leave out their sewage or effluents to the water bodies? It's all under the control of state board. Next is Air Prevention Act in 1981. This act came into force after the conference which was held in Stockholm, and this particular act again concentrates on how to control air pollution and how can we see that the air around us is having a good quality. Okay. So what are the features of this particular Air Act? That is, here also there are two boards which is controlling the air pollution, the central board and the state board. So what is the work of the central board? The central board may lay down the standards for the quality of air. In that particular, any state, what is the quality of air? That standard is put down by the central board. The central board coordinates and settles the disputes between the state boards. If there is any disputes between the state boards, between the two states, there is some dispute, then the central board comes into rescue. Then the third thing is the central board provides technical assistance and the guidance to the state board. That means there is a certain set of rules which is passed by the central which all the states have to follow. Okay. The state boards are empowered to lay down the standards for emission of air pollutants from industries or any other resources. So what are the air pollutants which is released from any industries or any other resources? They are the ones, the state board is the one who is in complete control. Okay. The state board are to examine the manufacturing processes and control the equipments for the prescribed standards. So in any industry, what is the equipment being used? If they use that equipment, what is the amount of air pollutants which is going into the atmosphere? All of this, the standards is set by the state board and all the industries should have that minimum standards if they want to function. Okay. Going further, the direction of the central board is mandatory on the state board. That means from the central board, there are a set of rules which is there, which all the states have to follow. Without the consent of the central board, operation of any industrial unit is prohibited in heavily polluted area. For example, Delhi, if you see, it's a heavily polluted area. There, if any industries has to come up, then the consent from the central board is very, very important. Just the consent from the state board is not sufficient. Okay. Violation of the law is punishable with imprisonment of 3 months or the fine of 10,000 rupees, or it can be both. So if there is any violation by any industries or any resources which are letting out the air pollutants into the atmosphere, then they can have 10,000 fine or 3 months imprisonment, or depending on what they are doing, they can have both. Okay. And also, even in this act, if there is any violation which is done by any industries or any other resources, and without the permission, if they are letting out any air pollutants in the atmosphere, then all the services for water supply and the electric supply for that particular industries can be completely cut off. Okay, so that's about the Air Prevention Act. Next is about the Forest Conservation Act in 1980. This particular act was passed so that the forest is completely conserved. Deforestation should be stopped so that the forest will be conserved. So that is the main criteria of this particular act, which was passed in, as I told you, 1980. It aims to arrest deforestation, or it has to, increase afforestation also, I can tell. This act covers all types of forest, that is reserved forest, protected forest, or any other forest land. Everything comes into control in this Forest Act. Okay, we'll see some of the features. The reserve forest shall not be diverted or disturbed without the permission of the central government. That is, no activities can take place like cutting of the trees or anything in this particular reserved forest. Nothing can happen without the consent of the central government. The forest land may not be used for non-forest purposes. Okay, and the third thing is, this act stops illegal activities in the forest area. That can be any timber, the forest can be cut down for the timber purposes, or any illegal activities in the forest area is completely banned. Okay, next is, there are some amendments which was made into this act, because they did not give earlier what was there. It was not very specific with certain illegal activities which can happen, whether it's legal, illegal, all of this. So there were some amendments which was made in 1988. Okay, what is that amendments which were made? The first one is, the forest departments are forbidden to assign any forest land to lease out or to any private person or any non-governmental organization for reforestation purposes. So there is some deforestation which has happened, which was belonging to the forest land. Okay, and that to do that reforestation there, the forest land cannot be given on lease to any private companies or any non-governmental organization. It has to be done by the government itself. Okay. Second thing is, for reforestation, clearance of any forest land is forbidden. So first they want to clear the forest land, and then they want to reforestation to occur there. That cannot happen at all. Okay. And the third one is, the division of forest land for non-forest uses is punishable. That is, it is belonging to the forest land. One portion you take and give it to someone for non-forest uses, that is for agriculture maybe, or it can be for animal rearing, many things. Okay, it is non-forest purpose. You are not just supposed to give. If it is given so, then it is punishable. Okay. Next is the Wildlife Act in 1972. Okay, this act was amended in 1983, then again in 1986, and then again in 1991. What is the main criteria of Wildlife Act? To preserve and to safeguard the wildlife. Correct? So this act aimed to protect and preserve all animals and plants that are not domesticated. It should be only wild animals, not the animals which is domesticated. Okay. India has 350 species of mammals, 1,200 species of birds, and 20,000 known species of insects in the forest. Okay. Some of them are listed as endangered species, and there the Wildlife Protection Act comes into picture completely. Okay, the wildlife population monitored regularly and management strategies formulated to protect them. So what is it? How to protect them? How to protect the endangered species? What are the strategies which has to be applied? All of this is worked out by Wildlife Act, which was passed in 1972. What are the important features of Wildlife Act? First one, the Act covers the rights and non-rights of the forest dwellers. That is, the tribes which are there or the people who are living in the forest, they have to follow certain rules. They have rights on certain things and they do not have rights on certain things. All those rules are given by Wildlife Act. It allows restricted grazing in the sanctuaries but prohibits in the national park. Grazing is not allowed in the national parks, but restricted grazing up to a certain extent, grazing is allowed in the sanctuaries. It also prohibits the collection of non-timber forest. That is, you cannot collect any timber from the forest. It's completely prohibited. Okay. And the rights of the forest dwellers recognized by the Forest Policy 1988 are taken away by the Amendment Wildlife Act in 1991. That is, if the tribes were there, they had certain rights on the forest because they are the people who are living there. And for that, amendment was given in 1988. But whatever rights were given to these tribes were again withdrawn in the amendment which was made in 1991. Okay. So, I hope you have understood all the 4 acts that we have learned today. Further, we'll learn some more. Thank you, my dear children. Stay tuned for more updates.